Okay, it's 10 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Heavenly Father, we come before you today to ask you to bless this meeting and bless all those that are here to determine the county's government business. We ask that you help slow the spread of this COVID. We ask that you be with those families who are quarantined. That's not a fun position to be in, and we know that they need lots of help. We ask you to be with families that have lost loved ones to this. And we ask you to be with those who can't be here today, those who are out serving our country in whatever capacity that they do. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Go ahead, Craig.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberties and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, at this time, any person with business before the court not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the court. No formal action can be taken on these items at this meeting. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. I don't see anybody that, unless Cole, no. Okay. All right, presentation and discussion, department head, committee and board reports. Do you see anything outstanding there?
I had my annual, I don't know if it's in there or not, but my annual jail inspection, we finished it up October 30th. We passed, everything's
Went great.
good for another year. So yeah, we had a few little hiccups, nothing, mostly paperwork, no issues at all. So it went good.
I think they have to find something.
Oh, they do, yeah. So it went good though.
It did, yeah. I was happy with the report that he gave. So. Anything else? All right, court to consider approval of previous court minutes. We have a few.
Just a few. I'm catching up.
That's good. Not like you've been busy or anything.
Uh-huh. On which one? Okay, let me go back and redo that one then. That's why I like y'all to look them over, just in case. I'll make me a note over here. I will correct that. That was my one for the year.
That's the one.
I know. So see, you get to start all over.
All in favor? Very good. Let's discuss and consider any precinct project schedule on staff. How are y'all doing there?
We are fog sealing and we are having some residents that are getting oil on their vehicles. Most of them have been very sweet about it. It's something that we have to do in order to maintain our roads and keep them from falling all to pieces so you don't have to drive on gravel roads. And so we're getting there and hopefully be done within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, good.
We'll do the same thing when we get to
Sorry. Anything going on with y'all, Craig?
We finished up 253. We'll go back and hit a few spots on the first part of it too. When on 264, the truck just kind of mashed it down a little bit.
Okay.
We'll haul it and go in there and pack it again. We'll be in pretty decent shape.
Nice.
Start on another one after the first year.
Very good. Anything?
Still getting project one down there. We'll be through.
About Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Next week?
That's all.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
Got all them frac trucks coming through right now.
That's okay. Yeah, I don't mind frac trucks coming through right now.
He doesn't either. They're packing.
I've got 1, 2, 3 frac jobs right now.
Okay.
Thank God.
Yeah. I still say we need to diversify though. I still like having the oil here.
Better be glad.
Mhm.
We better be glad.
Absolutely, it's here, right? Okay, let's jump around just a little bit. You're from Spectre Solar, correct?
Yes,
Okay, what was your name again? I'm sorry.
James.
James, okay.
Valley.
All right, James, we're gonna go ahead and let you do your presentation. Because I know you probably came a long ways to do this, and we'll go ahead and listen to what your presentation is, and then that way if you need to be somewhere else.
Sure, I'm in no hurry, but I'd be happy to go ahead.
Okay.
Step up here.
Sure, yes, sir. Might have to come up there and use that.
These things. That's your two cents.
There's three deals in your packet that all have Spectre Solar on the top of them, and that's what we'll
Okay, so y'all you got all.
be. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. 'Cause I had one for each of you, and I wasn't,
Okay.
I wasn't sure. So I guess, thank y'all for taking the time, to meet, or letting me meet with us today. So, I know it's kind of been an ongoing, project proposal over the last few months. So, more or less, I'll try to keep it as short as I can anyway, because I know y'all know the background. Y'all met with Dale, the owner, a few months ago or whatever. And that, we had initially had some stuff. So,
Now, there's several in here who don't have any information at all. Terry and I have had
okay,
discussions with
so
them.
let's,
but the
let me
others
back up.
haven't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more or less, Spectra is a company, we're based out of Georgia, but we are we're also a Texas licensed company and also New Mexico. But, we're a energy service company. We develops, solar, battery storage projects, some street lighting projects, and some different things. And I'm sorry, this mask keeps falling down. But, anyway, we've been around, since around mid-80s. Dale Show Construction, which is the owner, initial owner. And then Spectre Solar started it up around 2008. We've been working with different cities and stuff, and that's where our primary target market is municipalities, counties, school systems, and some mid-sized industrial stuff. But what we offer that a lot of the companies don't, we're not here just to bring in and sell you our product at a price and build it and put it up and walk away. We try to create a partnership that we can develop through time. We bring not just the equipment and stuff and the design and the technology to build it, but also the funding for that. So, so that kind of makes us different from the others. We actually bring the money with us because, and we own these projects ourselves, Dale does. And so it's looking for, more or less we use it for a long-term investment rather than just a short-term gain off of our customers. So we can go in at a reduced price on that. So anyway, so we've done, initially, we did a couple of projects here with the city. And then, I know Dale, before I come on board, I've been with them about a year. I was with another company out of Georgia, one of the largest ones down there, that more or less just did EPC work or just construction, design, and sales. We did some pre-design stuff. So we've taken all the energy bills from the sewer plant, and that's what we're talking about, is the wastewater plant. So it looks like, you're using around 930 something thousand, I think, kilowatt hours a year annually there. So to get back to what I was saying initially, I know that Dale had met with y'all and we'd looked at some stuff and this and that. We'd had in one proposal that is, really after speaking with some of them, it didn't make sense because of the escalation in it that was there. I understand that's heartburn sometimes. So we went back and sharpened up the pencil anyway and more or less for this proposal, pulled out all the escalation out of it. But, so this will be more or less for a 30-year term, a fixed rate, that is negotiable, can be, somewhat, but, initially, right where we're at right now is the 30-year, term at a fixed rate. So guess I'll sort of start in with the actual proposal itself, and hopefully that'll cover, most of the questions, and then we'll do some question and answer. So more or less, the system design size that we come up with is a 393.6 kilowatt hour system. It's a ground mounted solar array. And this is going to produce, predicted producing, when I say predicted, we use a software called Kinescope, so you can actually set it up and it takes the historical weather pattern for the area, all the other attributes, and it puts out a predicted estimation, a very close estimation of what the system will put out annually. So it should produce year one, 679,045 kilowatt hours, which is going to be about 65% offset of what the facility currently uses today. And that is based off of your 2019, 2020 bills. So we actually got 2 full years. The facility actually remains connected to the utility. You're still going to be buying that other 35% or so from the utility. And the reason it needs to be is because solar just puts out during the daytime. So your nighttime usage is going to come from the utility, but you're offsetting with our system the daytime use, or that 65%. So the bill cost of that system we're estimating around $617,530 as that investment, or $1.57 a watt. More or less, also during this, we looked and have worked with Encore. So for this investment, there is about $120,000 rebate that comes to the contractor. It goes through us. And as part of this agreement, we're going to pass through 100% of that, or the $120,000 will come to the county as part of this project. So you'll get that year one. Or they pay it normally when, after it's operating, usually within 30 days, they pay it. And then within 10 days of us getting it, or once we get it, we'll remit that over to y'all within 10 days. So more or less, the energy service agreement here it's zero down, so it doesn't cost the county anything. We're not, no upfront costs, no additional terms or payments during the agreement. More or less what you're doing is just offsetting what you currently use or what you already have for a budgetary process. What that utility bill is at that facility. But during the term also.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that part again?
Okay.
About, sounds like you said that we wouldn't pay any additional costs, but we would pay what the savings was for what the jail is.
No, there's no upfront cost.
Okay.
We provide 100% of the funding.
Okay.
And for the operations of the system, for building the system, and for anything. So there, at no time will we ask the county for any money.
Gotcha.
We'll build it, get it up operating, and what you're paying for under that ESA is actually just the estimated electrical production of that system. So you're buying kilowatt hours just like you are now from TXU.
Gotcha. Okay. I just misunderstood that then, because when what your contract or what your proposal says is different than what I just thought I heard, so I apologize
Okay.
for that.
Yeah, so no upfront cost, no
Okay.
additional during the term,
Okay,
beyond what the, ESA quotes, the
okay,
per month agreement.
Right.
That's it.
Except for two different clauses that I've found so far in the contract, and that's one of them, that we would be furnishing a high-speed internet connection at our cost, and maintain that. So that would be an additional cost of what we have now. And, of course, if I understand it correctly, our men at the jail or maintenance guys or somebody would be working with you guys to make sure that the system's up and running. And then we also, in the third page, have property taxes, and they would be property taxes to be paid because this is a commercial enterprise that makes a profit. Those, I've already spoken to the attorneys with the appraisal district, and we would be responsible, according to this contract, for those property taxes. And so there's two additional costs there, which there is something we're not paying now.
Sure, okay, well, let me make sure I understand and answer some of that. So the internet, that's there, it's going into, we anticipate that there's already internet probably there. So more or less, that is to allow us to tie into that system, and operate the monitoring system for that. Now, for the monitoring system, y'all will have 100%, it'll be open. Y'all can look at the production yourself, and we'll provide that link for the guys to do it there. So I think that part of that, Commissioner Williams, is on the guys, we're not going to expect them to do anything as far as your workers do anything with the system except monitor the system if they want to. If that's what y'all, ask them to do. But as far as doing it for us, we're not expecting that. Matter of fact, not to interrupt you, but matter of fact, on the, beyond this, on the O&M side, if there's something that we can work with y'all that they could provide that per se, that could be an additional revenue stream that we could bring into y'all if your guys are doing it. So we can work through that or whatever. Or if y'all don't want to get into that, then we could contract with one of the individuals that you recommend or whatever, that already works there, if they can do it on their off time.
Okay.
So, and as far as property taxes, if there is any property taxes there, I mean, normally the way the contract goes is, being it's going on a nonprofit or a municipal property or county property, those are not taxed anyway. But if there is any taxes that are associated with that, then of course we can work it into the contract that we're responsible for those. If there's anything other, and if you spoke to an attorney that says, if we just go into a thing with the understanding it's county property already, so it's probably non-taxed. So all you're doing is actually just allowing us to, you're receiving the kilowatt hours for it, and it's going on your property. So, but if there is a tax, whatever, we can make sure that it goes into the contract, that we'd be responsible for paying that tax if there is any.
Okay. And, what is the distance from the building that your AC/DC inverter would be? Because you're talking about.
And I said
150.
wastewater, and I apologize, I said wastewater plant, we're talking about, I'm losing my mind. The distance, it looks like it's probably, it's less than 200 foot, probably 150 foot. There's actually a design, it's in the back of it, you can see where the placement's gonna be, that we'll get to in a minute.
Okay, and it's been a while since I looked at this, but the other requirement for the Ethernet port is to be within 150 foot of the system. And so that might mean that there has to be one brought out to the outside of the building in order for that to work.
Sure.
And which would be a pretty good cost to do that, getting it to the outside of the building, and then possible pretty good cost to maintain.
Yeah, so to answer that, so if there is, and I think we're within what that'll need to be, but if there is some additional cost that we have to, with the communications provider to get it moved out to where that connection needs to be, we'll cover that part. And we can add that in. Okay, so
the monthly payments are around 4,400, something like that, if I remember correctly, that we would be paying to y'all.
I think that's, yes,
4450.
yeah, 4,450. Yeah, and again, that's, so that's, as far as budgetary though, remember that's coming, so you've got that line item that you're already paying. So what you're doing actually is just splitting this up. You're still paying TXU for that percentage that they use, or that you use from them, but then, you're just splitting that off. And that's how we get into, when we covered a minute ago, where the savings comes out, each month or each annually out of it. So, yeah, so, not to, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good right now, thank you.
So truly so out of that 400, the 30-year agreement anyway is on that fixed rate. So what this new proposal is more or less, it's for 7.86 cents per kilowatt hour is what it's based off of. And I don't want to get too far ahead because I'll go into it on this next document. And your current rate actually right now is 7.92. So we're about a quarter to.
Actually, not. We're paying 3.
But then you have the extra add-ons for the delivery, the taxes, fees,
Yeah,
and things
sure.
like that you'd have to add into that to get.
Yeah, so kilowatt hour is always gonna be, that's what comes from Encore or
Yeah,
just your base kilowatt hours, but then all those adders and those, different rate schedules and different things, whatever, and taxes and different things. When it all comes out, when it's said and done, you're at 7.924, yeah.
Okay.
So, so more or less, and that's locked in, like I said, again, for 65% of the current electricity would be at that 7.86. And we went back and looked at it from the previous bills. We've actually got from 2016 to 2000, about 5 months, I think, of 2020. And you've had annually for the last 3 years had a 9.05% increase in escalation from what your power bills were for each year. So in the last 3 years, you've had a 27, a little over 27% increase.
sure. January, we went into contract with TXU to hold the rate for the next 5 years.
Okay, so they're holding the current rate then. Okay, well, that's good. Good that you did. I know you'd mentioned that you were looking at, trying to get a renegotiation
Yes,
for an additional 5.
Yes, sir.
So that's good that you're keeping that where it is, but, but ours, what we're looking at here is actually a little bit below
Okay.
where you're at now.
Right.
Let's see. So more or less, how we're able to keep, to do that is we do capture the tax credits and the depreciation off of the system, and we figure that in. So looking at, and I know one of the concerns talking about the escalation and stuff or whatever, and I know that's sometimes that muddies up the waters. It makes things difficult because you're predicting. I think initially we had a fixed rate for 10 years, and then every 5 years was a 6% escalation, which, and then it's got that savings showed out there, and sometimes that gets confusing. So, I didn't want to put all that in front of you, but basically more or less, what's in this proposal is based off that 3% average, which is about the normal escalation that you'll see nationally. It's truly from 2 to 4%. It varies from state to state. So we just use 3 as a basis. And so at that, as you'll see here in a minute, that 3% basis is, where am I here? At 3% more or less for the 30-year, the overall estimated savings is about $1,072,094, or $35,000 a year annually, a little over. If you do it at a 2% savings or at escalation, it's about $695,000 savings at 9.4 or 904 or $23,000 a year. At 1%, you would save $385,000 plus at about $12.8 thousand or 1,248,000 per year, and that's 1%. But truly, what we're looking at with this offer is a 0% escalation. So your savings, including the Encore rebate, would be $128,555 at the end of that 30-year period, or about $4,200 per month is what you'll have.
So over 30 years, we're saving $128,555.
Yes, sir. Yes, because it's a fixed rate going into it from your, day one, and it doesn't escalate or increase or anything.
Yeah, based on the numbers that.
Based on the numbers we have. So that's that 128,000, that's the worst case scenario per se. Because, that's with no increase, no escalation or anything. So that's the minimum that you would save. I'm pretty comfortable to predict that you will have an increase.
Sure.
Whether TXU goes up and locks you in for your kilowatt hour rate, the other parameters or stuff is going to continue to
Sure.
go up. So
And it would, I mean, we're talking 5 years for sure, potentially 10 years. There's no way we can get that for 30 years.
right.
So.
Yeah. So more or less, we're just kind of change gears a little bit. We're offsetting, one of the things is offsetting some of the CO2 with it. It's going to offset about 529 tons. So that's something that the county can say, we're being good for the environment. That's always a plus. Overall timing as far as the project, if the project moves forward, about 45 days to procure the equipment and get everything together, do the final design, and in about another, 30, 45 days after that. So within 6 months, we'd actually should have the system up and operating at that point, so we're ready to go with it. And the next part is just more or less the assumptions. The system does have demand charges, which we knew it does. No backup storage is including this, and that's one thing I want to discuss, and it's not really in the proposal. If this project can move forward, what we want to look at is like I said, continuing that partnership, is to look at the potential of using some battery storage for the facility, which that would allow us to do a couple of things. You could actually increase the offset at that time, covering more of the usage. And then also it's going to add some resiliency to the project, to the site. And also, just some backup, in case you had a power outage. I know there's probably a generator at the facility, but what would happen then, you'd have the solar generation, you'd have the battery storage, you'd have the existing genset generator would be tied in with it, and then you'd have the utility. So truly what your backup that you have now would become the backup for the backup. And that would all be tied in. So it would actually be the Scurry, sort of make it, I don't want to call it a microgrid as like some people call things. It wouldn't be totally off grid, it'd still be tied, but really you could cover almost 100% of the usage there with the battery. And we'd like, as the next step, to look at the possibilities for that, to increase the resiliency for it there.
Okay.
All right. We know it's a 480 boat, so more or less just a quick version. The equipment that we use, we're looking at a 400 watt 30-year panel. So we're putting in the top of the line, the best panel that's there, that's available in the market today. The way that they rate those, the quick version is there's 25-year panels and there's 30-year panels. The 25-year panels are warranted by the manufacturer to be around 80.2%, give or take, at year 25 of what the original production was. The 30-year panels are going to be somewhere around 85 to 87% of the original production at 30 years. So it's a more stable plant panel that is going to produce more energy over time. So, at the end of the 30-year term, there could be, we could look at how the county could acquire that system you know, there's a part of it in there that, you know, it lists, we can't just, by our IRS will not allow us to say, we're gonna give you the system, turn it over to you for free, but we can work through a low negotiation that, you know, at the end of the time, so really then at 30 years, the county has something that's actually gonna supply the majority of the electricity for that facility. And you won't have any payments at all, so it's gonna be offset a tremendous amount at that point. That makes
Please,
sense.
Please explain, how that, a solar panel 30 years old can continue to supply more power, because I always understood from my research that solar panels, and not as much as they used to, but they do diminish in power over time. So
They do,
explain what you mean.
yeah, so they call it degradation. So the degradation listed at the panels that we're planning on using is 0.45. In other words, 0.5% of degradation or loss. So at day one, say that 400 watt panel is going to produce 399.99% at day one. Well, you know that you're going to have just a little bit of loss for that first year or whatever. So it's going to be a little less than 0.5% starting year 2. It'll be a little less than 1% starting year 3. So that degradation more or less is just the loss of efficiency of that panel itself, or the material that's in it. So that's the reason that this panel per se is 400 watts at day one. At 30 years, it's going to be, because of that 0.45% loss, it's going to be like, I think, 87%. So 87% of 400 is going to be I'm ballparking 385.
Sure.
So, you know, in 30 years, it's going to, or say 380, at 30 years, you're going to have 380 watts coming out of that same panel rather than the 400. So, and that's guaranteed by the manufacturer, that that panel will stay under that warranty. They're guaranteed for material for 12 years. You know, it really didn't affect y'all, but we know going 12 years into it, if something happens to that panel, they're going to replace it at that time. But then they have that secondary performance guarantee out of it that the system will be operating, or that panel will be operating to that quality, or they come in and repair or replace at that point.
For the first 12 years.
First 12 years, but if it's say in 25 or say in 30 years when you get it, or 29 years, I'll say, if the panel wasn't putting out what it's supposed to be, they still would do something to make it right. But after 30 years, that's when the warranty ends. So yeah, you're correct. At the end of the 30 years, when it was, if you acquired it or when you end up with it, you wouldn't have a manufacturer's warranty with it, but it should still be, you should still have another 5, 10, 15 years at least out of that panel.
That's my question, is what's the degradation after 30 years? Does it drop
No,
off drastically after that point?
No, it's not supposed to. According to everything that I understand, what they're saying is it's just 0.45% every year.
So we're actually at 320 rather than 380, because 8 times 4 is 32. So 320
Okay.
at that period. But after the 12-year period, we've had, 2 and 3 inch hail and even 4 inch hail here. And so there's, if the efficiency of those panels are lost because of damage by hail or wind, that cost is on us after the 12-year period? Is that
No,
correct?
sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
It continues to be.
It's on us.
Okay.
During the full term, the 30-year term, the 100% of the operation and the maintenance is on us. So we pay for everything. So if one breaks because of for hail damage, or somebody shows up and beats it with a baseball bat, it's tore up. It wasn't our fault. It wasn't your fault, but it's still got to be fixed. So part of that is that's under more or less our performance guarantee, ours, that an operations guarantee, that we cover 100% of that for the 30 years. If the system does not put out, the quick version is you don't pay for it. And there's a reduction there of X amount of dollars per day, and we'll cover that in a minute. But, you know, so every day after, there's a grace period, I think, of 11 days. For some reason, because the system might need to be taken down for maintenance or something like that for a day or two and this and that. So, but after the 11th day of each year, if the system don't put out, I think y'all could reduce $120 a day. Is off of that payment that you make us the next month, for every day that it doesn't operate. And then there's, you know, we want to make sure that it does operate. If it doesn't, then, you know, we're not doing our job. But we cover 100% of those calls.
And so you're talking about the top of the line panels that y'all are obtaining, and what country the manufacturers is, because the ones that I've talked to are all coming from China.
Well,
At this time,
the one that we're looking at right now is Canadian Solar.
Okay.
Canadian Solar is that's ones we've used to get bid those in the inverters. It's a Canadian company originally. It is owned by China now. I'll be honest with you. If that's an issue, certainly we can work on. There's other companies. You have one that's actually within the state of Texas, Mission Solar. You know, we don't have anything set in stone. That's something that we can actually, you know, work with you or try to work with you to get that. It's just we've had good, you know, response and good workmanship out of the Canadian Solar equipment so far. So, you know, we're open to that.
When did China purchase the company?
It's been 5-7 years ago. Yeah, Canadian Solar. When you hear Canadian Solar, you always think, where's Canada?
Have they moved the manufacturing facility from Canada to China?
The majority of some of the panels are made in China. They still make, I understand them still make some in Canada, but I think the majority of them are made in China or one of their subsidiaries. I can check and make sure as we move into that. But yeah, it is a Chinese company now, unfortunately.
Okay.
But like I said, we'd be happy to work with the manufacturer.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
It's a dumb one, but I'm gonna
No.
ask it anyway. If a tornado comes through there and tears the hell out of all that, what do you do for electricity?
As far as the system, we insure it.
I'm not saying,
No.
what do you do with it until you get it fixed?
You're still connected to
You're
the,
still
you're
connected
still
to the
connected
grid.
to your electricity.
Okay.
Yeah, you're still gonna get it from the grid, you know, so if tornado comes through and done a good bit of damage, then I guess hopefully the first thing that happened with TXU or Encore or whoever would show up and make your connection back. If
Okay.
theirs got tore up,
'Cause it'll have to be undone.
yeah, it'd have to be up and operating.
So just a follow-up question, and that's a good one. Since we would be diminishing the contract that we have with TXU at that time, we would certainly need to check to make sure if we're producing for several days or weeks, using TXU more than because we're beyond what we renegotiated the contract at, then our costs for that period of time could certainly go up. That's another thing we just to think about.
And tornadoes do happen, but hailstorms are a whole lot more
happen
common
quick.
and
Yeah.
it puts you on business.
Well, or even a 4-inch hailstorm.
Yeah. Anything like
Yeah,
that.
that's a good question, but yeah, you know,
Well, I didn't expect it to be, but I wanted to know.
it is.
No dumb question.
Yeah. So like I said, we cover, if the system's not working, of course, you're not paying for it. If it's down regardless.
Yeah,
of what
but
it
you
is.
gotta have electricity.
Yeah, but you gotta have the electricity, and like I said, once you're, and I agree with you. I think though, probably when you check into that, that'd be under kind of like an act of God thing that, you know, temporarily you might be up if you're pulling from them, but once it was back in operation or whatever, you'd be back down where it is. So I hope they'd be lenient with you for that. Most of them would be or should be.
I think another pertinent question there, talking about that, would be the strength of capital and some type of backup for that should your company go out of business. You know, because none of us, I don't think, know how strong of a company it is owned by an individual.
Sure.
Companies go out of business every day. And what happens at that point, and it's probably addressed, and I just haven't looked back, seen that yet, but that would be something I'd like you to address as well.
Sure. I mean, like you said, nobody knows, we're not promised tomorrow. And individually or with companies or whatever. But, you know, as far as with the equipment itself or whatever, I mean, if something were to, I don't foresee it, but if something was to happen to Spectra Solar and it become insolvent or whatever, then, you know, one of two things, either whoever ended up buying the company at bankruptcy, I guess you'd say at that point. I don't, like I said, I don't foresee that happening. But whoever ended up buying it would acquire the new contract, I guess, and things would carry on. Or the other thing, you know, that I might relieve some of the heartburn if, you know, to put something in there, because it really hadn't been addressed. I don't think that if something happened to us or whatever, then the system would move over to the county. So that would take, you know, it'd be under, you know, because foreclosure laws are kind of odd and hard to work around, but, you know, so if that's something that could be put in there, then, you know, if something ever happened to us, then the county would receive it, you know, or have first claim on it.
But if the company became insolvent and the county's desire at that time was to remove the facility, is there a savings account, a backup? Because if we don't want it in 30 years, we know that you guys are required to put the
Remove it.
land back
Yes,
like it is today,
we can do
as close as possible. So
Right.
that would definitely be
we
something.
can do I think, we should be able to do a
Reserve
surety or
for that.
reserve,
Okay.
an insurance policy more or
Bonds,
less.
whatever.
You know, that shouldn't be that much, but we can, you know, if that's something, you'd like, we can have, you know, look at doing that. You know, you wouldn't be talking, it'd be a few dollars, but I think the best case scenario would be if something happened to us, then y'all just get off of it. And you hire somebody to come in and make sure it's working right. Let me write that down, so.
That would be an additional cost as well that we'd have to think about making a decision for our community.
Right, so we'll, like I said, we can add an surety or whatever to make sure that. You know,
That would pay the contractor as well.
That would pay for the
came into-
removal, pay for the removal if something happened.
And our operation of until we
Yeah.
had a clear contract, or if they agreed to the same contract.
Or I think we could do that, or, I think the easier way might be just the verbiage or whatever. If something happened, we bankrupted, county receives the equipment. I mean, if that make more sense, I think, because that way if something happened, rather than having to worry about somebody else gonna come in and contract or whatever and dealing with that, it might be simpler to say, we get it and then we pick whoever we want to operate it.
And of course, we go back again to our discussion in my office a while ago. Because of the technological improvements on solar, fuel cells, wind energy, any technology that has to do with green energy anymore. And with the $1.7 trillion that supposedly Biden is going to put into green energy going forward, and this thing becomes obsolete very quickly, as we spoke of, because things change so rapidly now. It's like, as we were talking about, it's like this. 20, 30 years ago it took a whole basement in the bank to have the same computing power. And so because of technology moving so quickly, and hydrogen even, I mean, the International Energy Agency is even promoting and paying for and putting money in research for hydrogen. And a lot of companies have already adopted it. There's so many of these technologies, battery technologies, fuel cell solar, wind, whatever, and no telling what's gonna happen. They're even talking about being able to transfer electricity through the air like Tesla was, not the Tesla we know today, the inventor
Nikola.
Tesla. He had figured out a way, he says, and he never was able to do it to get the funding from JP Morgan, to actually move electricity from one place to another through the air. They're stating that again with 5G technology, and 6G is on the brink of coming. And with all these technologies, it's like, and we were talking about, we're at 1900 and we're driving a horse and buggy. And within 20 years, the Model A comes, the assembly line started in 1913. And we're in 1920, and those people that couldn't afford a vehicle are now driving Model A's all over the country. And I feel like we're right there. We're in the fourth industrial revolution, and this thing is picking up so fast. So, you know, guys, I love green technology. And I want to, for me, I would have no problem trying solar at my home. To not completely, but just a little bit of it, because I love it that much. But whenever I've got to make a decision for my community, and there's so many unanswered questions that we could probably work through, and in so many ways that we might cost our community more than what we save, because 120,000 over 30 years. And with what's going on in technology, I mean, 6 months ago, I was high on this. You guys do a great job. And you're actually helping our country go to a greener state. I appreciate that. We're an oil field town. And as we were talking, probably gasoline and diesel is going to become less and less. And EVs are going to take over in probably a lot shorter period of time than we know, because the big companies are getting into it now. GM just got into it with Nikola. I don't see how I can make that decision myself for that savings over 30 years for my community. And so I'll be glad to hear y'all's feelings on that as well. And so we can discuss this in a way that we actually appreciate what Spectral Solar has tried to do. 6 months ago, I thought this might be, as the judge knows, might be absolute the way forward. But 6 months later, the boom in technology that is taking place, I can't make that decision for this community.
You don't want to spend $1.6 million to save $128,000?
No, I'm sorry.
That's odd.
I think that the cost there is not the issue, because we're not paying anything up front. We're paying for electricity. That $1 million you're talking about, we're paying for electricity we're paying for today. But what's it going to be next year or in 5 years?
Right.
The technology that could be, and that's what I was talking to James about. You know, solar has gone down exponentially over the last 5 years. Nobody believed it could be the cost of installation per square footage that it is today. What's it going to be in 5 years? And so that's how I feel.
There's too many unanswered questions. And when it comes to the five of us, basically say what happens for stuff like this in this county. And I'm not willing to even remotely look at this because there's too much unknown, yes. And Terry, you're right, technology's not gonna stop. It's not. And I just think it's chopping your nose off the side of your face. Because even though we don't pay, we do pay. We go from one bill to two bills. And then there's too many unknowns.
I think the biggest unknown is if it tears up, like I say, with a cyclone or hurricane or whatever. Unless you had you say go back to where you was and tie on and all that kind of stuff. Well, that takes time. What you gonna run that thing with in that time? To me, you would have to have the biggest generator in the world out there.
I got it.
It's not very efficient though.
No.
Yeah, that's, you're, to me, and I wished I'd went to school and learned how to talk a little bit better, but I didn't. You're throwing a wad of money out there, knowing doggone well there is a possibility to back yourself up and not get run out of town. Didn't they used to tar and feather them years ago?
Run you out on the rail.
That's right. And if you had money, go buy a big, like say, a compressor or something, a generator or whatever out there and put out there. Well, but then why would you need two things and you not use one for 20 years? So it's, I don't know. It's just,
why these technologies go. 128,500, it's not savings. The way the technology's going now, it's likely within 5 years, it's likely to be something that we can't even predict now. These smart people, it's stuff there, it's just mind-boggling. Maybe if we go with something like this and technology in 3 years, depending on what Biden
So the estimated savings is 65%, correct?
65% of the usage.
Okay. My question would be, is that a guarantee? And if it is, what would be the, because I didn't see anything in the contract that said that we guarantee that you will save so much money. My concern is, what if we only save 10 or 15 or even 20%, and then we've still got that real high electric bill, but we're also paying you $4,500 a month. We've just cost our taxpayers $3,000 more a month or $4,000 more a month just to go green. And now I'm not saying I don't want to go green. I personally want an electric truck because I think they're so cool. But I don't think we should do it at the cost to our taxpayers. And so
Additional, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree with that. Not to interrupt you. If you look on the ESA, the Energy Service Agreement, the big one in the back under section 18, it's on page 10. And, so to answer, I think to address your question about the guarantee of the production, first of all, in the rear section here about on page 13 is performance guarantee and limited warranty, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But the more or less, this is the preliminary design production is at 679.45 kilowatt hours per year one. Then you're gonna have that little bit of degradation. But we're saying, in this, the limited service warranty term anyway, that it's gonna produce at least 82.5%. So we're guaranteeing that that's the minimum.
Sure.
That over the 30 years. And then the next paragraph there, and that's what I was talking about a while ago, that we guarantee that the system will perform a minimum of 97% operating time during the year. So 354 out of 365 days. And after that 11-day period, and that could be, like I said, could be brought, system could be down for maintenance and some other stuff for a day or two here and there. But after that 11 days of non-production, the purchaser is entitled to deduct a monthly charge of sum of $120 a day of any part of the day that the system is unable to produce 1,534 kilowatt hours. So that's the minimum. That's what it should be on an average, that the minimum that it should put out. So if it gets below that, you don't pay for that day. And so if it's down for 10 days, then that's $1,200
Okay.
per se. You know, so that's, you know, that's the clause in here to make sure that if non-production, non-payment, that's, you know, the way it is.
Okay.
We want to make sure, because you're exactly right, you don't need to be spending money, and that's the reason we put this together is, and bring the money is because we understand, you know, it's difficult to take and spend cash for something that you're not 100% sure, or you don't
Absolutely.
necessarily have to have. It's good to have, but
Yeah.
necessarily don't have to have. So on page 13 there, talking about the performance guarantee and limited warranty. So we bring in the warranties and stuff, of course, by the panel manufacturer and the inverter equipment and stuff, whatever. But then, let me find, I was wanting to talk to you about under section 2 there on page 13. So more or less the repair promise. So I'm not going to read it verbatim, but more or less during the entire term that we guarantee that we'll keep the system up and operating.
Okay.
For that, and that's part of the contract. So if we don't meet that requirement, then there's language in here that more or less we pull out a contract. You know, and y'all void it. You know, after if we don't meet or amend what we're doing wrong.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for the,
We appreciate
we sure do. It sounds promising, but I kind of agree with the commission. I don't kind of agree. I do agree with commissioners that I don't know that we're to that point yet. And even if we were, if we were to decide to go that direction, we wouldn't be able to sign a contract. We would have to bid this process out because we have you know, it's so over 30 years, we would be paying $1.6 million. So that process would have to be bid out. So any more thoughts on this? Does anybody want to make a motion, or do we want to vote on anything? Or
Again, I appreciate it very much. I just to make a decision for partial for my own self, but I just can't do it for the community. And so I do make the motion that this time that we just continue on as we are and not have a solar system installed at our county jail.
I second it.
all right, all in favor? All right, thank you so much for taking the time to come in. Are you from Georgia? Are you in Georgia?
Tennessee,
Tennessee. Okay. Well, how are things in Tennessee?
we're doing well.
Good.
We're doing well.
Yeah.
Getting by.
Good.
Like everybody else, you know, still having some issues, but
Sure.
not as bad as other states.
Where are you at in Tennessee?
Very southeast corner, and it's Polk County.
Okay.
It's right on, I'm about 3 miles from Georgia and about 2 miles from North Carolina. Out in the very, very southeast corner.
Awesome. One of the best states to own property.
Yeah.
Real
We like it.
property.
Yeah, we like it.
You give up on us?
Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you for your
appreciate you
time.
coming. I guess I'll wait for Sean to come back. While we're waiting on him, I can go ahead and I'll move to B, for to open and consider bids for 5 Zoll auto pulse automated CPR devices to include life bands, batteries, and battery chargers. I'll go ahead and open that while we're waiting on you. Be safe getting home.
Thank you.
And these are yours, correct, Chase?
How many bids did we get?
We just got one,
Okay,
but one is better than none.
that's right. I think Jason's actually,
Depends on what it's for.
there were several that you contacted. Or,
Yeah, there's, the market's not there.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it.
It's understandable. And that's not something you have to accept.
That's what it is.
Depends on what it is. For 5 of them at $250 a piece, $1,250.
$1,200 a piece.
No, $250 a piece. Total of $1,250.
That's ridiculous. Oh, unacceptable.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We opened a bid for the Zoll refurbished auto pulse platforms.
Yep.
The bid was for 5 of them at $250 a piece for a total of $1,250. And Jason says it's too low. Correct?
Yeah, I think they're worth at least $2,000 a piece.
$2,000 a piece.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my opinion.
Well, we can review.
We sure can. Yeah.
That's your opinion.
Judge, I'll make a motion that we accept the bid for the 5 Zoll auto pulse automated CPR devices to
We
include
accept?
life bands, batteries, and battery chargers.
Accept them
Accept the bids.
at $250 a piece.
Yeah.
Okay. You think they're worth $2,000 a piece?
Well, I'm hoping that they are. I thought that they would be, but I was counting on them to be.
I think we ought to look a little while in.
Yeah.
Am I misunderstanding you?
Mhm.
The-
I
the
think
market's
so.
Yeah, their bid is for $250 a piece,
$250 for this.
and each one is worth $2,000.
In my opinion,
His
it's worth
estimation.
that.
Oh, you're talking.
And so new,
So,
if you were to buy that
yeah, if you
new,
buy that thing new, it's $10,000.
Okay.
Refurb.
I am misunderstanding. I'm getting my election. I'm sorry about that.
I thought you might.
I think most of we do not accept those.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No worries. I just wanted
Clarify.
I did misunderstand.
Okay. All right, all
Sean,
in favor of not accepting the bid? Okay.
Where do we go from here?
Let me verify that and I'll get back with you. I think I know, but I want to verify.
Understood.
Do you have companies that you contacted to let them know that these are available?
But it's, I was surprised to see one bid.
Yeah.
But it's hard to take this technology when there's, in my opinion, there's better technology out there. And they're wanting to, obviously, this company, with Biomed probably, right?
Yeah, that biomedical.
Yeah. They're a private company, so they're gonna lowball it in order to sell it, turn around and sell it for probably $4,000 a piece or $5,000 a piece.
Yeah.
If not higher.
I'd rather give it to some poor county than that.
Can you
I
contact
agree.
other EMS services to let them know you have them?
Yeah, if I'm able to do so.
And then we rebid? I don't know why you couldn't contact them. I think
Well,
you can.
Contacting them, yes.
Yeah.
getting the funding for it's a whole nother, as you know, and I know, it's a whole nother issue.
Yes.
I think we need to know what our legalities, our capabilities and options are at this point,
Now that we've bid them out once.
before we bid it out.
They could do better on eBay.
I'm not sure that we have to rebid if we,
That's what I want to verify.
yeah,
Is if we can go ahead
okay.
and sell them at this point.
There may be some
Yes,
other
you
options.
can, according to the LGC. Once you bid and you reject a bid due to the being low, you can salvage them or do whatever, but you have to go through the process first.
So,
Yeah.
why don't you contact them?
Yeah, I'll contact them for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll contact her and tell her that she needs better to do.
And they for $250 fee, just put them in the corner.
Yeah, that'd make it more expensive boat anchor.
What's the life expectancy of these going forward?
These,
Yes.
depends on what we wanna do with them. If we wanna keep them in service, of course, I went through that at the last board meeting, but, it's just a matter of buying the batteries and getting into the maintenance contract with them, but they're 3 years. It's not necessarily the board, the board chips in the board. It's more so the battery.
Okay.
Cause they put a chip in there that after 3 years, that battery died. And then they mark the battery up.
But obviously, if they're worth 4,000 to one of these companies to be able to sell it for that, they've got a longevity that's beyond what the cost of it is or the use of it.
Yeah, the board itself and functionality is fine. You just gotta purchase the battery and maintenance plan, which in turn is, there's cheaper options out there. And that's what I was trying to do, was get us into it, a cheaper option, over time. But I'm going to contact a couple other ambulance services that have just bought them and find out why they bought them, number one, and two, how much they paid for them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. All right, court to consider accepting donations to county entities. Thanks, Jason. Got one to the sheriff's office for $200, $500 to the youth center, and the senior center has $753.32.
I'll make a motion to accept the donations to the county.
Second.
All in favor? All right, very good. Court to canvass returns from the election held on November 3rd, 2020.
Okay.
Congratulations to everybody that
Yes.
won their elections.
You all should have copies with your names on them, everything, with the official final results.
Yeah, that's the latest one that was laid out for you. The other ones didn't have,
There were some other
Military.
things, yeah, there were some changes in some different races and stuff because of military and different things. So. Just need a motion to canvass.
Motion to canvass votes as presented by Bill Yep.
Second.
all in favor?
Thank you.
All right.
It is official then.
Great job.
Thanks. I'm glad it's done.
All right, we got a certify. Court to discuss and consider certification of additional revenues in the form of Maverick West land sales. And I had that. I know I saw.
Additional revenue of $113,365.50.
I'll make a motion to certify the additional revenue from Maverick West land sales.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. All right, court to discuss and consider interlocal agreement between Lubbock County and Scurry County pursuant to the Fair Defense Act. Okay, so they've made some changes in this. It says because of the growth and success that the RPDO, which is the Regional Public Defender Office, Earlier this year, the Lubbock County Commissioners Court, with the collaboration of the RPDO Oversight Advisory Board, decided to move forward with creating the Regional Public Defender Office Local Government Corporation. As a local government corporation, RPDO LGC, on behalf of Lubbock County, will take over providing legal defense services to defendants for participating counties who enter into local agreements. It's the same agreement that we've had before. It's just a different entity, different name. They have a board. The board is listed at the back of here. All the directors and the terms and whatnot. And the amount is about the same, isn't it? Isn't it pretty much the same, $63.87 that Scurry County would pay. And this is for capital crimes.
This is very cheap compared to what it could do to our county if we were to have 2 or 3 capital murder cases especially. Come into our county, we could be bankrupt in a matter of weeks.
Yes.
And so I make a motion that we accept this agreement.
Second. All in favor? Court to discuss and consider bid on tax deeds and property cards for trust property in the city of Snyder. We have two, I believe. One bid for $2,001 for 1311 20th Street, and one for $500 for northwest corner of Avenue N and 22nd Street.
Second.
All in favor? All right. Court to consider and appoint the local health authority for 2021 and 2022. We talked to Dr. Cooper last week. He agreed to continue as the local health authority. I believe the current pandemic that we've been having, he's been doing a fantastic job, and I can't see any reason to change that right in the middle of all of this.
Continue Dr. Ben Cooper, the local health authorities.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you, Chief.
All in favor? All right. Let's get that. Okay. This is a fun one. Court to discuss and consider revisions on CDL and drug testing policies. Kirsta, I'm gonna throw this in your lap.
So this law went into effect in January that requires us to revise and handle our CDL drivers in a different manner. It essentially requires the county to register into a CDL clearinghouse and the drivers also to register on this CDL clearinghouse. It's the best way I can describe it is a background check for your CDL drivers. If they were to ever test positive in their past, we would know about it beforehand. If they were ever to test positive drug or alcohol while employed with the county, then there's a way to report it on their record. So it went into effect in January. We need to update our policies for that. Some specifics, I'll need your guys to register on this clearinghouse. There's several consent forms that need to be signed. And then by the end of the year, we need to drug test at least 50% of our CDL drivers. So these things need to happen rather quickly.
The result is a fine, correct?
Correct.
If we don't comply.
Always a fine.
Yeah.
Right now, it's a drug testing of 50% of our employees that is subject to change every single year. That's something we'll need to keep up with.
Is there any certain clearinghouse that you're looking at to join?
The clearinghouse would be just the U.S. Department of Transportation
Okay.
clearinghouse.
And we did sign up for that. at
We
the
have
first of the
currently
year.
done that.
But isn't there a agent that works under them more locally?
No, sir. Once we signed up through them, we have to run
Never.
queries.
I know
Through
there's
them?
somebody more local than the agency, but don't they give that out to clearing houses or people that actually make sure that their tests are, I'm in a clearinghouse myself
Yeah,
with CDL, and they have to come down and test me for drugs every so often.
That
I've
would,
signed up for all of this, and that's a little different, I guess, but
that would be the Melodies Consortium.
yes, that's who I'm using.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they come in, who we've used for a while now. And they will drug test our employees.
and
We
we talked
also
about,
have to sign up
Report.
with Melodies, right, or not?
No, sir, they
Okay.
don't.
Okay.
When they go in,
Well, I did both, and so I wasn't sure about
Okay.
this.
yeah, no, sir, because the employer will take on this expense. Whoever the employer decides to go with, they do have to sign the consent forms and allow us to drug test them and run the queries every year.
Okay, so it's pretty well done through HMI.
if you remember, we looked at having
Health
our health unit doing it, but, that creates a conflict
Ah, gotcha.
and it has to be
Makes
done.
sense.
And so at the first of the year, Melody said, you have to do this by this date. And so I got us signed up on that, and not even realizing, they didn't say anything more than you have to do this, sign up for the clearinghouse, but apparently you have to.
Yeah, there's a
It's
lot
a
of stuff that
policy.
goes in on the background, and Melodies will do it
Yeah.
at an expense.
Yeah.
So to lower that expense, our office will take over it.
And then through Melodies, Safety Plus can actually come and do the testing if I'm understanding it correctly.
I don't, if Melodies has a contract with Safety
Yes,
Plus,
they do.
then that's
And
good.
so we certainly want to use local if possible,
Absolutely.
even if we have to go through Melodies to do it. That's
Well,
what they
it would
told
be
me.
great if we can say, hey, show up at Safety Plus at 7 a.m. And instead of waiting Melodies to come here, because I
Yes.
believe when they come here, they come in the middle of the
And it
day.
makes it so
And
difficult.
yeah,
It
if we
does.
can send them to something like Safety Plus, that would be very beneficial.
So if you'll talk to Safety Plus, I will.
Yes, sir.
I thought when we talked about this before a little bit,
Uh-huh.
that we was gonna do it ourselves.
We were looking at doing that, yes, but as it turns out, some of this we can't do ourselves. The DOT, we can't. It will be a conflict.
If we
It would
wanted,
be a conflict.
Third party.
yeah, it really needs to be a third party. What the DOT's, I believe, trying to do is to make it cohesive and somewhere employers can go look and find their record for CDL
Well,
drivers.
we run into what I don't like about it. And if one of the all was standing here, got one right over here. That the last time I done that, it took 3 weeks to go through the motions of trying to get somebody. And there I had 2 hands.
Yeah.
You know, I just can't see when the county can do it itself.
He's talking about a new hire.
Yeah.
A
You're
new
talking about
hire.
New hire, and they're
Right.
talking about the CDL, DOT stuff, which is, for you, is the same thing, but it is a little bit of different things.
Well, I won't argue that because you're smarter than me. But, you know, if our own place can't drug test somebody, I don't want, you know,
It might be, if we can use, Safety Plus, that might be a quicker process. I'm sure I think they would probably get it back to us quicker than.
The
what we've
oil
had in the
fields use
past.
them, so I don't know why we
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to.
We
So-
can still do non-CDL employees
Sure.
through the health unit. This is just specifically CDL employees. There's very specific requirements,
Well, I know, I've been
That the
one all my
health-
life. I know there's.
So it's-
that the health
Wow.
unit doesn't qualify for.
Right,
And
so if
one
he
of
wants
them's
to
being
hire
third
a
party.
DOT driver, or a CDL driver, he would have to go through Safety Plus instead of going through the health unit. And then they would have to do their random through
through Safety Plus.
If you hired someone that's not a DOT, but they're gonna drive a county vehicle, we could use our health department to do that.
Well, I'm, all right. I ain't got no car that I can drive. It would be a truck that I would need them to drive.
Okay.
And whenever you find one, and then you sit there, like I did that last boy, for 3 weeks
Mhm.
from this hospital right out here, and didn't, I could have sent a pigeon to Louisiana and got the dang thing, and had him to bring it back. When you're out of a hand, most time you're out of 2 hands if you don't watch it.
That's why we're gonna look at other options, like Safety Plus, see if they have the contract with Melodies and we can just go through there. She'd get a quicker turnaround that way.
Okay. I'll take your, but I'm gonna
I said
remind you.
should.
I'm gonna remind you.
I said should, I'm not giving any guarantees.
Well, with this also, I think there will be more of a streamline.
Yeah.
As to expectations and, what's going to happen, than there has been before.
Well, do you know what they're gonna charge to do this?
Melodies Consortium?
No, I'm not worried about that.
Oh, Safety Plus.
Yeah,
No, sir, I have not talked to them.
I think they'd be faster.
Yeah.
Up here. I don't know that.
Well, using somebody local. But I will definitely get in contact because like I said, there's a ticking clock on all of
I
this.
was 3 weeks when we went out to the hospital
Mhm.
and sat there and just sit. And when you didn't have 2 hands at that time, it kind of
Oh, I
made your
understand. Yes, sir.
rump red.
So,
While we're on the subject, before we get a motion, please. I need another area in our policy that has to do with CDLs to be changed before our auditor whacks me. We have a policy to where if you don't have your CDLs within a certain period of time, that you revert back to a lower pay. And because of, I got a gentleman that went through all the school. His wife got cancer, dealt with her for 6 or 8 months prior to her passing. Then he tries to do it again because of the difficulty with this loss of his spouse. He began to have an eye problem. That has kind of corrected itself. Going back to try to get a release on the eye for the doctor and all the things that he's done. And COVID comes along. And getting into a doctor is 6 months away, it's nearly impossible. And so I would like to remove that aspect and we can change it back at any point the court so desires. It just isn't working because of situations like, I don't know if any of the other guys are having those problems or not, but this is an excellent worker, does everything to the best of his ability, and I can't see taking him down in his pay to, so that I don't want to continue to break policy either.
Okay. Why is he not got it? Because he worked here when I took office. Why did he not have it prior to that?
He had to go through the school over here. And as he was going through the school, his wife became cancerous and he flew
I
to
remember that.
Chicago nearly every week with her to be treated because of the type of cancer that it was. And so everything happened from there.
Okay, now I'm gonna remember when I asked you,
Okay.
this is gonna come back. You know it, and I know it. That ain't fair to the ones that does that.
That's exactly why I am asking to change this policy so that everybody doesn't have to going forward. Everybody that's got it's got it, and they got it in the time that limit that they did. I don't know if you've gotten new ones that have been able to go through the school over here at the college or not.
Yeah.
Uh, He did everything he could do as fast as he could do it. He even went back to the college and asked them, do I need to go through it again? And they said, absolutely not. We will actually help you get done. But then he couldn't get into the doctor. And so that's been, and with COVID now, it's just been an ongoing thing. He has tried
And what do you want?
to take out of the policy that you must have a CDL within 90 days in order to keep, if you are a CDL driver, that you take that out of the policy so he doesn't have to go back to a lower pay. He is that good. I mean, as far as operating a maintainer, backhoe, this guy's good. And I don't want to reduce his pay, which is going to be required by the policy if we don't remove this.
Does he drive trucks, or does he just operate equipment?
Without a CDL, it's illegal to drive a truck.
Right.
Even
But he
some
said that-
equipment is illegal to drive without a CDL.
But not a motor grader.
Right, and that's what I was.
I don't know of any road equipment that is illegal to run without a CDL other than a
I
truck.
think, I'm gonna butt in.
Hold
I
on,
think
Can we
hold
even
on.
discuss that right
Because
now?
this is actually, it's a
about
different,
CDLs and
right, but we're
policies.
talking about the CDL and drug testing, which
Well-
is about the drug testing policy for CDL drivers.
It says and. It says CDL and. So we're talking about CDLs and policies. And we can bring it back to a different agenda if you don't feel
Yeah.
good about it. That's fine.
I'm kind of uncomfortable because it's awfully close to, I mean, I know it says CDLs, but it was, CDL drug testing. And,
If it said CDL drug testing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say that. It says CDL and.
I
And
understand.
so that's fine, Judge. I don't have a problem with that.
There are some policy issues we're gonna bring up in the next,
I have no
weeks.
problem.
If we could, hold on this one and bring it up with the other policies.
That's fine.
I feel like we're right on the edge of not being in something that
All
we
right.
You're
should
gonna
be.
bring it up today, though?
No, sir, it'll be at the next agenda.
This is not good.
What's not good?
Well, it's kind of the same thing I run into on trying to get CDLs for a deal. You just keep dragging it out. If he's got a man that can drive a grader, that's the biggest part of the whole deal.
Well, my point on this is if he's not driving a truck, if he is, operating equipment, then, he doesn't need the CDL.
No, I'm not talking about that.
Right.
But he is,
That's
according to the policy,
Uh-huh,
if you don't have your CDLs, it doesn't make any difference what you're doing. If you don't have CDLs within 90-day
Sure.
period, you get bumped down to a
no,
lower rate.
I understand that, it may need to change, without looking at it, without having it here, I hate to get,
Next week's fine, or
Yeah.
the first of next month, it doesn't matter.
cause I think,
Angela has worked very well with me.
I think, we need to change that up in descriptions.
Okay.
So, and without seeing the descriptions and having them handy.
That's fine.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That was brought up when Paul was in here.
Uh-huh.
It was Tech 1, Tech 2, Tech
Right.
3. That was brought up then.
Sure.
Motor grader operator or something should be the highest pace.
Yeah, I've got a boy driving a truck
So we can talk
that
about
can't
it.
drive
Yeah.
a motor grader.
Yeah, well, we can change it up. We can look at the differences between a truck driver and a operator and all that, so, okay. All right, so back to the policy on drug testing and alcohol.
Did you say payroll?
Do what?
Since it's a law,
That's a
difficult.
That's a good reason, isn't it?
Did you say
Is that your
somebody-
motion?
Did you say 50%
Is that one of those,
people-
Yes, sir. For the year,
Uh-huh.
50% of all CDL drivers need to be drug tested.
50%.
Is that every year?
It's
Every
subject
year.
to change, but yes, sir, every year.
And what if the 50% that you do go, the next time you get the other 50% next year? Or
No,
you just
sir.
pull it out of a hat?
It's done
random.
random, yes, sir.
Same one could get it every
Same
time.
could.
That's
Same.
No
Yeah.
good deal.
That's happened to me.
I have too, and I don't like it.
I got nothing
They
to hide, so.
used to, up our farmers, they picked the old men because they knew they didn't drink, them young ones, they'd get them every time.
Yes, ma'am.
It's
But
an
does
extensive
everybody-
policy. It also goes into accidents, what's to be expected.
Yes.
All CDL drivers need to be drug tested in an accident. If this motion passes, I need copies of all of your CDL driver's license, as well as I will need to get with y'all or your foremans and have them register through the clearinghouse as soon as possible so that I can get them to accept and consent to the necessary documentation afterwards. Additionally, I would like to mention that it's highly recommended that our CDL drivers and supervisors and commissioners go through a class. So it's about 2 hours, and for the CDL drivers and the supervisors, it's about an hour. So,
Is it
I'm sorry?
e-commerce?
No, sir. They'll come and
They'll
Okay.
come and give it to us?
Tech has one.
yeah.
I like the computer.
I'm surprised they haven't done that one through computer, but
Well, it's still a law.
Yes,
It is still a lot, and we do have a policy already, so it probably needs to replace.
I second it. It's a law.
That we- Okay, that's a motion and a second. All in favor?
That's where I'm gonna write it. It's the law.
All right, line item transfers and budget amendment. Yes, sir.
Did, and you'll have to forgive me, guys. Mom broke her hip and her wrist, and she's been in the hospital since last Wednesday, so I'm not always on my game here. But would you look at E and make sure that we got that done?
We did not, and the reason is we don't have it.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
there's been multiple answers from multiple individuals.
So. Hadn't got here.
My mother will be here next week, and I would like her to be able to be here for the oath, so I'll take care of it next week.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Now and later is the answer she's gotten. So.
Yeah.
Line item transfers and budget amendments.
Take your
Trying to
time.
get you out of here.
First line
Oh,
of
you're
transfers for district court recorder, bonds and notaries, $165 out of other equipment. Second one is the youth center for maintenance and repairs, $4,500 out of his food budget, $4,500. It was to cover the extra expenses that was needed to finish the reskinning of the building. The next one is part-time, precinct 4, road and bridge, part-time 2,000 out of utilities to clear out the end of the year. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
And then the last one is airport equipment under $1,000. Put 1,000 in it from his communications, and it's to replace the office bookwork computer that kept locking up with the Windows 7 operating system.
That happened.
That's all the line item transfers. I have one budget amendment.
Okay, on the youth center, I think part of that was taking off that, leaky front awning there. So, that was the additional to what they did out there. But it looks really good now. And you said a budget amendment?
Yes, I have a budget amendment for EMS, general payroll, $14,610.68, and operating supplies, $14,610.68, which is a total of $29,221.35. And it comes from the EMS CARES money that he received specifically for EMS. He received it in April, and then total amount of $29,221.35 and it's been held in his Texas class line. He wants to put that to his general payroll and operating supplies.
And that has to be spent before the end of the year.
But the most people all right out of transfer and budget amendments are forgiven.
All in favor? All right, what bills do we have to pay?
We have bills $451,671.85.
Can you tell us what they are?
There's a lot of them.
I thought you were trying to help me here, Judge. No, I'm good.
All of them. There you go. Okay.
Did it make a motion to pay the bill? Hallelujah.
All right, second, all in favor?
Did that make a motion to pay the check?
All in favor? All right, thank
You guys are
everyone,
killing
for
me here.
hanging in there today.
I gotta be able to read this, Nick, in a few days.
It is not our fault.
Cole, what's going on in Blue